Well, the picture surrounding Group Y in the T20 World Cup is suddenly looking one hell of a lot more clearer. Why? Because yesterday we got to know that England were through. They became the first team to qualify for the T20 World Cup semi-finals, and today New Zealand have inflicted a very heavy defeat on host Sri Lanka, confirming that they are now out of contention, and it's also taken New Zealand one step closer to confirming their own qualification, currently sitting on 3 points with a fairly healthy net run rate, and in the process they've also severely damaged Pakistan's hopes of making it into the next round. Obviously, plenty of talking points to get through this, but first off, I mean, Siddharth, and I think this is a fair assessment to make, Sri Lanka were absolutely beaten at their own game today.
Absolutely beaten in 2 games now. 95 and 107. 2 Super 8 encounters. 202 runs in 40 overs. Game, set, done, dusted. When Pathum Nissanka fell first ball to Matt Henry. Wicket maiden, it was an incoming delivery that Henry bowled. Oh boy. That's it. And when Pawan Ratnayake also fell, everybody fell cheaply. Sri Lanka's chaotic campaign, now 3 consecutive losses. Zimbabwe, England, New Zealand. It's eliminated them from the semi-final race. And it has all but eliminated Pakistan also from the thing. So, you're looking at a possibility where both your semi-finals will most likely be in India.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Because we know that if any more matches were to be played in Sri Lanka after the Super 8s, it would have required either Sri Lanka or Pakistan to have made it into the semis. As things stand, Sri Lanka are out. Pakistan have 1 foot out of the door. I think their last game is against
Sri Lanka.
Yeah, they require an absolutely massive win. And considering the kind of pitches you're getting, kind of attritional in Sri Lanka, it seems very unlikely that you are actually going to be seeing that sort of a win for Pakistan. Because, see, I can entirely believe that England may very well end up beating New Zealand. There's a possibility of that happening. However, can Pakistan for sure guarantee that they'll get a very big win against Sri Lanka? I doubt.
Yeah.
Because even they don't quite have that kind of a quality whereby they can absolutely go out there and dominate a Sri Lanka. No, they cannot. In fact, it might even become worse, because what if Sri Lanka end up getting a consolation win? Then it's done, dusted for them.
It is done and dusted. See, Pakistan now have played 2 matches. They have lost to England, and that is why that loss will hurt them in a big way. 2 wickets, England just managed to squeeze through. If they had held on to their catches, Pakistan could very well have managed to do it. But no, as always, now that washout against New Zealand is going to hurt Pakistan a whole lot more. Plus, they have lost now to England. And look at the way how New Zealand performed on the spinning deck. Rachin Ravindra with 4 wickets. And everybody chipped in like a proper unit. And that's why one half of my prediction has gone totally awry. Sri Lanka won't make it. It is most likely New Zealand who will go through. And we are joined by Nikhil. I mean, looking at the way how Sri Lanka just performed today, I mean, sums up their campaign. I mean, they started off like a train, but then just fell off the rails.
I can't believe that Siddharth, out of all the people, left a team like New Zealand out of his semi-final prediction. I picked them as my number 1 team from that group. That's another matter, that they might not finish number 1. England might be that. They can still finish number 1 there as well. I think that game will pretty much decide what happens. But, this is why you got to pick New Zealand. The reason I was bullish about them is because with the kind of pitches that you have, they have the personnel. And that's what I said at the time. They have the personnel to succeed in these conditions, whether they are Indian conditions or whether they are conditions in Sri Lanka. As you saw today, 1, they have batters that can bat against spin, and 2, that they have spinners that can also do very well. So both these things put together kind of, told you that New Zealand can do it. But just just try and put that thing into perspective. 84 for 6 they were, if I'm not mistaken. 84 for 6. They won this game by 61 runs. A team that was 84 for 6 has won this game by 61 runs. Says a thing or two about this New Zealand team. And I think why they do well is, 1, as I said, is the personnel that they have. in terms of succeeding in these conditions, but also the fact that they are truly a team. They are one unit. I'm not saying others don't play like a team, but somehow or the other at ICC tournaments, they will always have these scenarios where they've got each other's back, right? So if this is not the guy, I'll step in and play according to the team. And they put the interest of the team first and then adjust there. Won't say like, this is my natural game, I'll play like that. Quite often we give this leeway to players in different parts of the country saying, oh no, this is how he plays and let's be okay. I think New Zealand is one team which never says that. They say, no, it is nothing about my style or how I play or which conditions I perform and this is this. We are a team and I have to be mindful of what the situation my team is in, what I'm needed to do for my team and what the conditions are telling me I need to do for the team. I think these are those qualities that make New Zealand a team that always punches above their weight in ICC tournament. I know what the scenario is and maybe we can discuss that, but I think what this game has done is, in Hindi as they say, khud to doobenge sanam, tumhe bhi le doobenge. So not only have Sri Lanka been knocked out, they've taken Pakistan out with them, because the only way now Pakistan can qualify, they will first need to hope that New Zealand lose to England. And even if it's a close game, it's all right. They'll need to win by a margin of 70, 80 runs in their final game versus Sri Lanka. And both those counts are unlikely. There's a good chance, you might have New Zealand beat England only, and that would be that. But even if, let's say, New Zealand were to lose, they still would need to beat still a very good Sri Lankan team by a 70, 75 run margin or somewhere above 60 run margin, which I don't see happening. So that tells me that we may not know the semi-finalists now. We only have one semi-finalist confirmed, and that is England. But we have the semi-final venues all but confirmed. 4th of March in Kolkata, 5th of March in Mumbai. And why? Because only two scenarios could have allowed semi-finals there. If Sri Lanka was playing the semi-final or if Pakistan was playing the semi-final, this game has pretty much, Sri Lanka are definitely out, 100% out. And I'd say Pakistan all but out. I don't know, am I being harsh or is it a...
No, it's fair.
Yeah,
fair assessment on Pakistan.
Minus 0.461 is Pakistan's NRR. New Zealand's is +3 after this win. So, as I said, it will need a huge miracle for Pakistan to beat Sri Lanka by a huge margin of 70, 80 runs. Because that loss that they had against England got their net run rate down to minus 0.4. New Zealand, they were already 0 because their first game was washed out. They now have jumped to +3. So, and if you're going to play at I think they're playing in Ketarama, if I'm not mistaken, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. On this kind of a wicket, forget it.
When is Pakistan, Sri Lanka?
Pakistan, Sri Lanka, I think is in Saturday.
No, so it doesn't matter. That game may just be redundant.
Yeah.
Because on Friday, England play New Zealand. So if New Zealand win, England, New Zealand go through and Sri Lanka, Pakistan can play on Saturday for bragging rights. Doesn't matter which stadium they're playing in, doesn't matter the conditions, won't matter what the margin is or 60, 70, 100, 500 runs. If New Zealand beat England by 1 run or 1 wicket or whatever,
or super
last
over.
ball, anything, done. Tata bye-bye to Pakistan. So, and as I said, there is a good chance of that happening, that, New Zealand itself beat England and it's all done. But in the rare chance, if not a rare chance, but let's say a 50-50 chance that New Zealand are to lose, then Pakistan will need to beat Sri Lanka by a big margin, which I think is going to be a tough ask. Firstly, for Pakistan to beat Sri Lanka and then beat them by a big margin. Because see, Sri Lanka have still caused a big upset. Sri Lanka have still beaten Australia in this tournament. Who have Pakistan beaten, barring the associate teams? They've not got one win against a full member side. So I think in that game, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Sri Lanka will go in as the clear-cut favorite. So I don't think that's happening. So it's pretty much, as I said, the semi-finals are done, 4th and 5th, both in India, Kolkata and then Mumbai.
Yep, one of the co-hosts is gone. And yes, but Pakistan, they have not won against a full member nation now for 2 consecutive editions, almost 2 consecutive editions of the T20 World Cup.
Their last win would have been in the 2022 edition.
Against New Zealand.
Correct.
New Zealand in the semi-final, they beat them, and they lost to England in the final. Then 24, they lost to US.
And don't forget, that time the only full member nation that they faced was India.
And they
who
lost there.
to. So, and then they didn't even make it into the next round, so didn't give them a chance. So yes, it's been 2 World Cups now. 3 World Cups if you count this one. 2 World Cups.
Two.
This one now, that they've not been able to beat a full member nation. That in itself tells you where their cricket is. And again, look, it's bad enough that, you know, we have to pile upon them more often than not, but then they do kind of bring it upon themselves. This is the same lot having a laugh at, oh, we've got 1 point and you've got 0. Well, you've now got 1 foot out of the World Cup, and we still have a fighting chance, assuming the Zimbabwe result goes our way. So
Assuming the West Indies South Africa result goes
that
our
too,
way.
that too.
That. See, now both Pakistan and India are on prayers. Pakistan's prayer has gone unanswered. Okay, the only way Pakistan had a chance was if Sri Lanka beat New Zealand. That would have thrown whole group wide.
Yeah, because then even Sri Lanka would have had a chance.
Yes. 3 teams battling out for 1 spot.
Exactly.
I was just thinking, just overall, Sri Lanka are definitely out. Pakistan are all but out, barring a miracle, as we just discussed. India also living on a prayer. They want one result desperately to go their way. I don't want to wish this upon the Indian team, but in that scenario, let's say India also don't make it. Can you believe a T20 World Cup happening in the subcontinent, and even Afghanistan that made the semi-final last time around, not have a single team from this region make it to the semi-final in these conditions, no less? I mean, that's going to be a big surprise and a shock in the cricketing world. I don't think anyone would have ever thought that.
Well, it also shows you how well prepared some of these teams have come. You look at England, they have a fair few, not just full-time spinners, but part-time spinners who've been doing the job. New Zealand today had 5 spinners overall. And the most effective of their spinners was the one spinner who no one was expecting to even bowl.
Rachin.
In Rachin Ravindra. Rachin is seen as someone who can be like a stopgap ODI bowler at best. What, 4 wickets today, and some of the balls he was getting to them to turn, like he was peak Rachin, never mind Rachin Ravindra.
Vettori.
He was Ravindra Jadeja.
Yeah, or even a Vettori.
Yeah, because some of them were really turning square. I know there's one where there was a stumping. That particular wicket was just crazy.
No, but then that takes you to the point once again. I don't know how many games we've discussed that, and it's happened at this stadium.
Yeah.
Sri Lanka won the toss, for God's sake. You've seen what happens here, and nothing else. That India-Pakistan match should have served as a reminder. And I'm not even saying it in hindsight. At that very moment, everyone said the games before that, every game that happened in Ketarama, whether it was a day game, night game, was won by team batting first. That is what you've seen throughout the tournament. Sri Lanka won the toss and they put the opposition in. I can't believe. And it's not happened, one time, one captain. Pakistan made it
Twice.
I think those blunders twice. Sri Lanka also doing it. And then they have a local team. There's no dew. I was there in Colombo. I'd reported that. There's no dew also setting in. We saw dew in Kandy, but that, is still a higher altitude where the game happened. And that also came as a surprise in the last game. I'm sure they knew these conditions. Ball was gripping, turning. Why in the hell would you invite that trouble onto yourself? I don't beat me.
Sri Lanka have gotten a double whammy. You know why? Because when they batted first against Zimbabwe chased it down at the Ketarama. You remember, that was at one game, and since then they haven't won a single game.
The only game this World Cup where team that has chased and won it.
But since then they haven't won. Because when they wanted to chase in Palakele, it didn't happen. They are back at the Ketarama. They felt, okay, maybe the trend has changed. Maybe we can chase. It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed. The pitch in the second innings it felt like it had deteriorated. That's that's how much turn you could see a Rachin get. Even Glenn Phillips, some of those balls he was bowling was like peak Murli. He was getting it to spin that square, and I'm like, what's happening here?
I mean, everybody, even Cole McConchie got it.
Exactly, even McConchie was getting plenty of turn.
Yeah.
Tells you everything.
What a story for McConchie. I wouldn't have played this.
Yeah.
It's Bracewell who gets injured in the middle of the tournament. He comes as a travelling reserve and then makes it to the squad. Gets to play at that, by the way, that partnership, that 84-run stand. And my favorite was there involved in that stand, a certain Mitch Santner. So not only is he a genius with the ball, But today with the bat as well. And McConchie, I mean, some of those shots that he was hitting against Chamira,
Those
proper
two
bat,
sixes.
that all-rounder. And he doesn't have such a big career. I was just seeing he's only played 11 odd games for New Zealand. I know he had a very good domestic T20 league that they had. He had an outstanding season that just went by. And on basis that
Canterbury,
for Canterbury. He captains also Canterbury, if I'm not mistaken, in the short format. Being the all-rounder, he is a proper all-rounder. For that 84-run stand from 84 for 6 to have reached where they did. And then again, Madhushanka and Chamira, I was wondering, like, what is it that Sri Lanka were... I could see Sanath Jayasuriya all this while. I was just looking at him and Malinga. They must be like, man, what is it? I mean, like, wish we were... imagine the high standards that they've set. And I can just feel their pain when they're sitting out, saying that, come on, man, what is the talent that we have now? From the time that they were playing, they have to go through this ordeal of watching some of these performers. I felt for a Sanath and a Malinga being helpless on the sideline. But from a winning position to give the match away like that, crazy.
2 times against England also. Their batting absolutely went haywire in Palakele. And is it anything that maybe that Zimbabwe game really threw their planning into disarray? Because, okay, Ketarama was supposed to ensure that whoever batted first would win. But Zimbabwe chased it down. Then what do we do? Okay, should we now chase? You look at the both losses that they've had in Palakele and in Ketarama. It's come while chasing. So neither the batters have stepped up, and we all were like of the opinion that get Nissanka and Ratnaike out quickly, the game is done.
And that's what I was actually coming to, is that I think this batting lineup in the early parts was so heavily anchored by Nissanka that is becoming obvious in the last couple of games. He hasn't made meaningful contributions and they just are collapsing like 9 pins. There's nothing to the batting lineup beyond. Yes, you've had a Pawan Ratnaike who's chipped in with a couple of good knocks here or there, but even those came in games where Pathum Nissanka gave you that early platform. Without Nissanka's platform, sorry to say, Sri Lanka's batters look hopeless. And that really has been their problem for quite some time. Even if you go back in time when they won the Asia Cup in 2022, which is in the T20 format, they did it because the conditions were very conducive for their spinners, and the spinners actually managed to weave them some magic, and you could get by with some attritional batting. That was fine. But other than that, in conditions where it's like standard T20, they don't really have the batters. Ratnaike to an extent, Pathum for sure, but who beyond that? The rest of their batters are basically just there to kind of make up the numbers. That's what it feels like with them at times.
Yep.
I mean, you look back in time and just in the recent past, as Nikhil was saying, you've got a Jayasuriya and the likes. These guys were tailor-made for this format. And the drop-off has been alarming to say the least. That they've just not been able to replace that generation. They've been struggling under the weight. 2011 types was when they last made they won the World Cup in 2014. Yeah, but ever since then it's just been slow decline and slow and painful decline. Actually, it hasn't been slow, but it's been painful.
I mean, 16, 21, 22, 24 and now 26. They haven't reached the playoffs for a reason. I mean, 14 was a time when you had an anchor in Sangakkara to ensure that you gave them that stability in the middle order. You had a Thisara Pereira in the lower middle order. At the top, when you have to look at it, yes, there would occasionally be a Dilshan who could give you those fast starts. But apart from that, I mean, Sri Lanka, there was a reason why their first 4 T20 World Cups, 7 they didn't make it, 9 final, 10 semi-final, 12 final, 14 win. Since then, it's been a sheer drop-off. Sheer drop-off from 16 till now, 26, 10 years of pain. And not helped by the fact in 21 they were in the toughest group of them all. Not helped in 2022 that they were also in a tougher group. Remember, they had to go through England and New Zealand and Australia. Same. So 2 World Cups, 2 tough groups. But in 24 also they were in a tough group. So it has not helped. Their standards have not come into the elevation point at this stage. And once again exposes that, see, out of all the established teams, Sri Lanka doesn't have a stable T20 league. There is an SLPL, but that SLPL has been plagued with a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Plus,
Don't say that. No, we have the biggest league. We're still not in the semi. So be very careful with what you.
I know,
what you
but
say.
then see again.
Pakistan has the PSL, which they're very proud of. They are all but out.
I mean-
of this Big Bash is there in Australia. They're out, not even have gone through the thing. I think the sad reflection is actually, and going back to that, the same thing, because you're saying just Sri Lanka and where Sri Lankan cricket has come, in that chance that if India don't make it, I think the biggest talking point will be in spin-friendly conditions, Asian teams, and this is a fact, the ability to play spin and handle spin has seen a major decline within Asian countries. And this is something that, Indians, Pakistani, Sri Lankans would be proud of. One, having those good spinners and also batters who could bat against spin. But just look at it in these spin-friendly conditions that you've got to an extent in India and in Sri Lanka. Well, Asian teams have been struggling.
Big time. I mean, look at the way how the pitches have been. It is on this kind of a wicket. Put the current Indian batch together, they'll flounder. Big time. Put the current Pakistan team, they'll flounder.
In fact, just as an indictment, Sri Lanka, the two spinners they struggled against the most in this game and the last, one was Rachin Ravindra, the other was Will Jacks.
Yeah.
That is the level we're at. That part-time off
Two
spinners.
part-timers.
That part-time spinners, one an off spinner, one a left-arm orthodox, are just making their batters look hopeless. These are the kind of bowlers who, if they came up in front of a Jayasurya, Dilshan, Jayawardene, Sangha, those kind of batters, they'd be eaten alive. You wouldn't think of bowling them.
Not just that. Prior to the T20 World Cup, another bowler troubled them, Jacob Bethel. He's hardly a full-timer. Bethel troubled them in the series, in the T20I series. Now here, it's been Will Jacks, Rachin Ravindra. Imagine. So, Sri Lanka, what a epic fall. From the highs of 2014 to now in 2016 onwards till now. Epic fall in the T20 fortunes. So,
Yeah, we're talking about, by the way, the leagues and everything. The first semi-finalists, the one major league that they have is a format that no one else in the world plays.
The 100. But again, they at least have the Vitality Blast T20.
Yeah, and that's at least a tournament that's somewhat well respected.
That's been there for a decade.
Yeah.
The Big Bash has been there for a decade. What I am basically implying is the PSL has been there for about 5-6 years. You at least know the sides. Islamabad United, Peshawar Zalmi, Multan Sultans, Lahore Qalandars.
Yeah.
Even the BPL, there have been some teams for 2-3 years whom we knew. Barishal Burners, Dhaka Gladiators, Sylhet Warriors. Can you name one Sri Lankan team that has come from the SLPL? I'm not talking about the previous avatars.
I
Where you
remember
had
the LPL, the Lanka Premier League.
nothing.
The only thing I remember about the Lanka Premier League is that one year, I think it was 2023, where the purple cap winner was Vanindu Asaranga, the
Most
orange
sixes.
cap winner was Vanindu Asaranga, most sixes Vanindu Asaranga,
Player of the
most
match.
MVPs Vanindu Asaranga, and I'm like, what is up with this tournament? What is going on here?
I
That
can't
itself
think,
tells you everything.
that is the thing. Too many clubs, but too few players. Perennial problem. That's why even their test fortunes have gone down. Sri Lanka, when did they last win proper test series against the big nations? Very rarely. So,
Don't say that. We have a test series coming up against them this year.
August.
I do not want to even think about how their spinners are going to trouble our batters.
yeah.
I don't want to think about
Hope
it.
Ramesh Mendis and Prabhat Jayasuriya step up. That's the only way possible. Oh, and by the way, is Prabhat Jayasuriya playing in this? Your best bowler can't play because he's not suited to T20s. This is the issue. So, yeah, it's mostly England and New Zealand from this group that are going to go through. That's awesome in more ways than one. And
It's a kind of fulfilling the predictions. I think I know I had picked England and New Zealand because
Yeah.
I remember saying that people were saying, "Oh, New Zealand don't seem that fancy."
you know
I'm like,
why? That South Africa game increased my doubts further.
Yeah.
The way how they performed in South Africa and Ahmedabad, that said, yeah, they do lack that thing, which is why I didn't put them in the semi-final.
You know,
race.
when they reach the key circumstances, they tend to somehow click as a unit.
Yeah.
This was the kind of game also. I know, 160 odd, first off, them getting there was a big deal. But then to defend it the way they did, a full-on team effort here.
Yeah.
Always greater than the sum of their parts. Always.
Always in that sense. So, yeah, terrible
I'm
day if
seeing
you're
a
Sri
lot of
Lanka.
chatter on social media. People are saying, Sri Lanka are out, don't write Pakistan's obituary. They still can go through. All they want is England to beat New Zealand, then they will beat. I mean, is there merit in that?
There is some merit, but it will require some impossible level these things, because again the numbers just don't add up for them. It's just not very good. Their net run rate right now is minus 4.61, and they'll need. See, New Zealand is the only team they can leapfrog. New Zealand right now have a net run rate of plus 3.050. You need England to absolutely hammer New Zealand, and then you have to absolutely hammer Sri Lanka. That's the only way it's possible.
Yeah.
It's not impossible, but it's one of those things that is possible in theory. Like in theory, I might one day get to the moon. In practice, we all know it's not something that's going to happen just like that. So
Okay, I got the answer. That's what I was looking at. I mean, in theory it can happen, but is it happening? You've answered that.
practicality wise, no, I don't see it happening.
No. Same here. But then, as I said, Friday is the game, England, New Zealand. Saturday is Sri Lanka, Pakistan. I think you may have your first dead rubber of the Super 8s.
If New Zealand win, then yes.
Yeah. Even if New Zealand lose by even one run, still, then Pakistan will need a monumental, say, 80-90 run win.
But then still, in that sense, it's still technically not a dead rubber. Technically, I'm talking about
Technically.
mathematically. I'm playing pure math here. I know realistically it's not possible,
Yeah.
but mathematically it won't be a dead rubber. However, if New Zealand win, then it's a dead rubber, because then it's New Zealand and England to go through. Simple.
New Zealand, England goes. Yeah. So, by Saturday, it's bye-bye to Sri Lanka, hosting venues.
Venues, yeah.
Venues.
Because it's bye bye today
Not
only.
Saturday, Friday, yaar, Siddharth.
If England beat New Zealand,
If but Friday,
yeah, if England beat New Zealand, then Saturday. That's your last glimmer of hope then, in that sense. Which is what Jay Krishnan is like saying.
Yeah.
There is a possibility that if England beats New Zealand by 35 runs and Pak beats Sri Lanka by over 40 runs, things can change.
but that's the thing. No, yaar. If
Ifs
that
and
way,
buts were
New
pots and
Zealand, by
pans.
the way, that way, Zimbabwe can also qualify.
Yeah.
Zimbabwe beat India now, and Zimbabwe beat South Africa, and Zimbabwe make it to the semi-final. But if I say that, you will not believe me, na?
Yeah. If
Exactly.
auntie at wheel, she'd be a bicycle, no?
Yeah. West Indies beat SA by good margin 6
No,
then SA can be.
she'll be an auntie sitting on wheels.
I'm just saying that's the saying. I'm not saying I invented it.
Yeah.
I know you did.
South Africa. Okay, then if West Indies beat South Africa by a good margin, like 60 runs, then SA can be out.
There's so much math here. Again, I can't wait for this math to be done with. I
Yeah.
thought I left it behind in high school, but apparently not.
No, we can't. And then Sarthak Arya saying, not praying for South Africa to win tomorrow, just want the better team to win for the sake of sport. Okay. Really
So what
getting
do
a
you
feeling that knockouts are going to be best
Better
ever.
team is-
He's
South
saying may the
Africa,
best man
na?
win. Simple as.
So the best man so far has been South Africa.
Exactly.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. West Indies have had, they've been good, and they beat
England.
in the group stages, so they've been looking good. But let's see. Right now in the Super 8s, they've also had one win, and that too against Zimbabwe. So it's not been, they also have to go through tougher tests.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, anything can happen. If South Africa win straight shootout, if India beat Zimbabwe, then March 1 is a shootout between West Indies and India. Simple.
Yeah.
Then NRR doesn't even come into the equation. Na0916 from the US is saying, SA and New Zealand have all conditioned players, not great knockout giant.
I mean, see, they have a bad history when it comes to losing finals in particular, but the current sides do have, it's a bit of a Swiss knife kind of a situation,
Yeah.
whereby they've got enough effective options in the armory. That is fair.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility that if South Africa beats West Indies and they beat Zimbabwe also, then you may see a New Zealand versus South Africa semi-final.
That'll be very interesting.
Yeah, it could happen.
Naval says that Pakistan and Sri Lanka's dip is not a good thing for cricket. They're very worrying signs. No, I will agree. I think at one point the Asian bloc was much stronger than it is now. And now with the Asian bloc, it's like India here and the rest of them are just kind of competing somewhere lower down. It's not good.
Yeah, that's what happens. You need from one zone, if there are competitive teams, it enhances the competition a lot more. Which is what's happening in hockey, India are the strongest Asian team by a country mile.
But
But when they turn up against Europe and Australia, they falter.
exactly.
So that's the problem.
Let's see what Naveen Narayan has to say. We can scroll down. He says, I'm getting a bad feeling about tomorrow's match. Oh boy.
On which match? India, Zimbabwe or West Indies, South Africa?
Maybe both.
Could happen.
Ashish Dar says, something doesn't look right this World Cup. Look at the way Sri Lanka approached this innings. Sri Lanka bowled first, which is surprising, and then showed no intent in chase. Wholeheartedly agree.
But
It's a baffling call in the toss.
But as I said, if they lose while defending against Zimbabwe, then something's gone wrong in the planning. Something's
I
gone
think what
wrong.
he's pointing out to not just poor performance, but something beyond that. That why would they at the toss, and then I know what he's hinting at, but I
Can't
find it
really
hard
talk
to
about
believe.
that. I mean,
Yeah. No, we can talk about anything we want, but I don't subscribe to it.
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's just pure speculation at best. If
And-
we're
Yeah,
going down
but,
that.
I mean, what he's saying is that some of those decisions totally baffling. Like, why would you win the toss and do it? But then, just to point out, they're not the first team to do it. There've been a few teams that have done it. And then towards the end, I think they just. I know that they were just dragging the game on because they knew that there wasn't even about net run rate, right?
Yeah.
So the question obviously that came to your mind is like, go down fighting. What's the point of just dragging the game? You're not playing for the net run rate. But I think they didn't have that kind of firepower or that ability in the batters who were lower down the order to even attempt winning. So I think they just went through the motions.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And no intent in chase. When you lose Nissanka first ball,
Your intent is gone.
gone. Right in, right
But
there.
see,
It's gone.
that also is not a great reflection. That's what I'm saying of a Sri Lankan team that you knew everyone. Okay, fine. They got a decent enough total. They could have chased it down. But I'm sure anyone who was watching must have been like, okay, Nissanka fires, Sri Lanka win, Nissanka doesn't, they lose, and he gets out. I mean, the first thing that came out of my mouth, game's done. It doesn't happen like one wicket falls and you say game is done. But I couldn't help myself and say that because that's the truth.
That's just what Sri Lanka are right now. Get Nissanka, game done.
Game over at this point. Suhas Jayaprakash is saying, does India miss a batter who plays the situation keeping natural instincts in the background? I understand teams can lose in T20 format, but is it ego that blindsides team from NRR?
But you have batters who've been batting like that, and
Tilak.
like for example, Tilak and Surya also. If you see, his natural instinct is very different, and the way he's batted in the last few games, he's looking at the situation. But therein also comes the criticism. Na? I sent you that reel today.
Yeah.
So there are people criticizing that as well. That Tilak and Surya, the way they are batting, they are shouldering arms to deliveries even in T20 cricket and things like that. So it's a double-edged sword. Yeah. Not an easy part to walk.
And that's what I'm struggling to understand, because there's a lot of people who are saying, oh, why don't we have people playing Kohli-like innings? I'm like, boss, you've got two of them and you're criticizing them also. So really, what do you want? Please figure that out first.
Yeah. Sarthak Arya saying 2019 ODI World Cup semi-final repeat in T20 mode loading.
Mat bolo, yeah. Don't say such things. India, New Zealand.
Looks tough. For that to happen, New Zealand must beat England.
That can happen. It's not
Of
entirely
course
out of
that
the
can
line.
happen. It's not such a big shocker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New Zealand, England. I would put New Zealand as the favourites. By the way,
Yep. But
they're only in this position. Let's not forget because they had to share that 1 point to Pakistan because they got rained out. I would have fancied them to win that game. But by the way, if that had happened, they were through today.
yeah. So could happen. I mean, if India top the group, then it won't happen.
Yeah.
But if India finish second, New Zealand get to 1, then yeah.
India highly unlikely to top their group, but New Zealand do have a legit chance of topping theirs.
Yep. I'm predicting maybe a 2022 repeat. India, England semi-final, West Indies, New Zealand.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. And New Zealand getting the better of West Indies.
But if you want 2019 full semi scenario, then you need all teams to be there. Na?
Australia and there.
Australia.
Australia isn't there. That's exactly my point. Siddharth and me may be wearing the yellows, but we are not wearing the Australian yellow. He's wearing the CSK yellow, and I'm wearing the Brazil yellow.
This is
So
the CSK
the Australian
yellow.
yellow is missing.
This isn't a CSK yellow.
That's more, little more on the
Of course it
mustardy
is.
side.
No?
But all CSK's had different yellows, different seasons.
That's
They've
true,
covered
actually.
all yellows.
Yeah.
Actually,
They've covered all yellow.
this is closer to the Jordan team yellow, if you look at it.
No, Jordan was a little brighter. The F1 team, they were a little brighter.
Or it could be
Yeah.
the Bremen, no, which was that team?
Dortmund, no, even they're very bright.
Neon yellow.
Yes, they're also practically very bright neon yellow. No, even that's very
Even
bright.
that is also different, yeah. Come on.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to taking a few questions. Priyanshu very hilariously saying that Nicholson Park will celebrate more than World Cup win if Farhan scores 37 runs in the next match to break Virat's record. He's already sharing his stats on Insta stories. 50-part documentary loading.
He will get past Virat's record.
I remember though.
Most runs.
He was asked about this, and he said, I remember that quote from the press conference. I think last game he was asked about it, and he said, "मुझे तो पता भी नहीं कौन सा record है, but I don't see the records. I go to play to help my team win, and in the process, if a record is broken, great, I'll take it." But so very rehearsed answer he said about it. But if he's putting Insta stories, then he very well knows about that record.
Yeah.
But in the scenario that they are, I guess we'll take the record because going forward from here looks very tough anyway. So
Correct.
Yep.
Naveen Narayan says we have to nitpick if we need to find a gap in our side. It's just the players who will need to fill that gap, not playing up to their potential. It's a very strange situation indeed. I would have to agree with him. I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with the team or the squad you've picked, but couple of players not playing up to potential has basically made this team look model.
See, you've lost two guys' form at the worst possible time.
Abhishek.
Abhishek and Tilak. Tilak, after that injury, has looked very scratchy. But that is a role you've given him. So, what can you do about it? Nobody anticipated Abhishek would have such a dip in form.
Now of all times.
4 matches, 15 runs. 15. Sanju, 1 match, 22. And imagine that's the choice we have to pick.
Sophie's choice.
Exactly.
Aditya Kavlekar says, someone has done some black magic to the Indian team. Tilak, Washington, Akshar get injured, Harshit out, Abhishek and Bumrah fall sick, Rinku has family problems, you name it.
That must be a Tantric Baba in the team, no?
but again, yeah, going back to that point that was made, you've lost one game. Let's be honest. And I agree with the team as well. This, if you know, before the World Cup started, all of us had picked this team only. Yeah, I'm guessing as majority of the people that are watching also would have picked this team. Who was to know that this will happen? I think where you've been found wanting is in terms of preparation. And the second bit is, which you should have been, wary about or should have known, was the fact that you're going into a World Cup with a relatively young team. By young, again, I go back to what I'd mentioned the other day, what MS Dhoni said about experience. When you're talking about Virat and Rohit, experience means people who played multiple ICC tournaments, right, have been in those tough situations, not 30, 40 matches type experience. I mean, you have, in your bowling to an extent, you've got a Bumrah and an Arshdeep who've had that experience. And Hardik Pandya.
And Surya
there.
Kumar Yadav.
And Sky to an extent, yes. But overall, that's what I'm saying. The more you have, the better it is. And I guess that's the only thing. And see, that is what the pressure is also, to handle that kind of pressure on the big stage, a World Cup game. See, now you got to think about this young team. Even though you're playing Zimbabwe now, imagine the kind of pressure, because you just don't have to win. You have to win by a big margin, right? That's already on your mind. So that thought process and questions being raised about forms, things like that, can't be easy for a young team. Try and think about what Abhishek must be going through. Yes, he's a flamboyant batter, but now his place in the side is being questioned. He knows that there's a desire to win an ICC trophy. All of that put together, it won't be easy to play the kind of game that he was playing in bilateral, right? That was minus this kind of pressure.
Yep. Satya Kumar saying, mark this, India will make it to the finals, and it's just the luck on that day. Could happen.
Entirely possible.
Could
Yeah,
be.
yeah. As I said, it's not that far. It's not an impossible task. I mean, for starters, you look at the first game and hope South Africa win, which, as I said, they do seem like the favorite to win. And then from there on, it's just in your hands, right? and you're good enough to beat both those teams, you beat them, you go through.
Yep. Piyush Nandre, is there any scenario where India and West Indies qualify and RSA knockout?
Yes, South
there is.
Africa lose their next 2 games.
Yeah, that's it.
Easy
Then
as
and
that.
only then. Or if South Africa suffers such a big loss and they win only by a small margin against Zimbabwe,
net run rate drops.
then the net run rate, and we win by 60, 70 runs against both Zimbabwe and West Indies. Only then and only then. Gemini Can, it's like saying, wow, do we need Abhishek's next 2 important games? I feel Sanju is technically more sound. Your thoughts?
No, I would not drop. I wouldn't drop anyone for Sanju right now, least of all Abhishek. He's one big knock
That's
away
one.
from lighting this World Cup up. Just one
Could
big
be.
knock.
Could be.
In the words of MS Dhoni, nothing more to add.
Yep. Then, which is the other one? Anshu Mishra. Nikhil sir, there's only one way for Pakistan to reach the semi-final if Lahore Airport is renamed semi-final. And I already knew long ago it would be New Zealand and England qualify because SL and Pak are worse teams. Yeah.
I mean, fair. That's fair. Very fair.
Yep.
I had thought that Sri Lanka would do better than what they've done. Let's be honest. I mean, I'd pick New Zealand, but I'd pick Sri Lanka over England. That was my prediction because I thought in home conditions, these spin-friendly conditions, they'll come to the party and England might struggle.
Yeah.
But clearly, I got it wrong there.
They should have played in Palakele all the games because Ketarama is clearly not their cup of tea when it comes to T20 ice. I mean, 9 wins out of 35 here. That's terrible. Okay, freaking awesome.
Freaking awesome, by the
My
way,
God.
chiming in with some technicalities, saying that Nikhil, you're wearing potassium chromate yellow and Siddharth is wearing sodium chromate yellow, which is a darker shade. I didn't even know such things existed until right now.
Must be a chemistry
No,
guy.
that you're right. But the point was not about we both wearing the same yellow. I'm wearing the Brazil yellow. And I said, he's wearing the CSK yellow. He said, this is not the CSK yellow. I said, over the years, CSK has gone through all shades of yellow. So somewhere it'll be the same yellow that they had in their jersey.
Yeah, if you look at the CSK jerseys, hardly it looks like this kind
No,
of
but
yellow.
there used to be times where it had shades of this
Yeah,
yellow for sure.
they have.
In the early
I
days.
know. Yeah, with the Aircel logo, different
Yes,
yellow,
yes, the early days,
over
the
there.
early
Yeah,
days.
Come on, yeah, Siddharth.
No, yeah.
Go back in time and you'll see.
I will check it out. Either I am become colorblind or I become too yellow blind in that sense.
Yellow line. As Shivam puts it, before the 2-year ban.
You know, this color reminds me of that 1995 jersey of Australia. Remember, there was one centenary series.
I don't actually. I was 2 years old back then.
Yeah, there was a New Zealand centenary series which involved India, New Zealand, South Africa, Australia. Check out that color of the Australian jersey of 1995. This is the same shade. Yeah. Bharat Raj, is Abhishek Sharma a slogger? Oh.
We're all asking the uncomfortable questions, are we? It's that time.
He's not, yeah. If you've seen him play, you know he's not that.
Yeah, he's just, right now, his confidence is short. Let's be fair.
And I mean, I can agree. Mohammad Amir says that he's barely seen much of him.
And
right?
then went on to form an opinion on him. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, for those of us who've seen him during the IPL as well, just because a person can get quick fire runs and can hit big shots doesn't make him a slogger. I'll give you an example. I'm not comparing him to that player, but I'm saying similar. Would you call Chris Gayle a slogger? No, he was not. He was not. He's definitely not. Just
he was
because
a smart batter.
Yeah, he was an aggressive batter. That's all right. But wasn't a slogger. So I think Abhishek is even more aggressive than, did I say even Gayle? Because Gayle would still sometimes, play out maidens also. Just defend, and then when he got into the range, he would just attack. But I think T20 cricket's also evolved. So much. So you need to be as aggressive as Abhishek is.
The only
But not a
guy
slogger.
who was a slogger who later became one of the best batsmen in the modern era was the current head coach of the Sri Lankan team, Sanath Jayasuriya. He started as a slogger, but then as his role became clear in the 90s, he became one of the greatest batters.
Yep. There are many, David Warner for that matter.
Yes.
Initially,
A
would
pure
just come and
slogger.
would just come and throw his bat, but then, he
Scored
just-
at 120
when he-
in that Hobart
yeah.
test match in testing conditions against New
I think
Zealand.
he realized that, that's it, that there's more to his batting than that. But I think he had a self-realization. And then after that, it was amazing.
To an extent, someone like AB as well. Early days, AB was all flamboyance. Then when he learned that he can actually control his instincts and pick and choose his moments, Maxwell? No. Maxwell, I don't know, Shivam. Maxwell is always a slogger. He's only a slogger. He's never became a good batter.
Very
Maxwell.
surprising. Another Sri Lankan name, Aravinda De Silva. Started as a slogger. He would play.
Aravinda, was a class act, yeah.
He later became a class act. But then look at the shots earlier that he used to play.
He became a bit more mature, but he always had that style. Yeah, come on.
Of course.
Those kind of straight drives, cover drives, he was there. Yeah, he was just naturally aggressive, that's all.
Against Australia, one hoik across the line, catch dropped, should have gotten an indication. No. Next ball, same hoik. Caught. But I'm talking about this was pre-1995. That was how Ari was.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Robin Singh, no, yeah. Robin Singh, not a slogger. Amit Deshmukh, harsh. Javagal Srinath was a slogger. Yes.
Yeah.
Despite getting 50s, he was a slogger. Anil Kumble, kind of. Harbhajan Singh was a slogger.
Yeah.
No, not Sidhu.
Nahi yaar, Sidhu is a bit unfair. Sidhu is one of the better players of spin India has ever seen.
Yes. Sidhu. Navjot Singh Sidhu. Oh my goodness. No.
No, Sherippa wasn't a slogger. No.
Yep. Okay. So, shall we call it night?
Yes, let's.
We can, because tomorrow it's a double-header day. It is West Indies versus South Africa at 3 p.m. from Ahmedabad. Then 1,000 kilometers later, you've got India versus Zimbabwe from Chepauk. And best show, Shrikin plugged.
Best show. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shrikin. So, from me, Nikhil and Shane, it is bye-bye, Nandri, Vanakkam, Shubhratri, Shabba Khair. Eat your vegetables.
Don't trouble your mother and subscribe to Sports Today.
Subscribe.